Well, welcome everyone to St. Thomas Anglican Church here in Thunder Bay. We're gathered to talk about our Family Giving Center, and we're happy to share that with everyone. But before we start, let me just offer this prayer. Let us pray. Loving God, we thank you for your unfailing love, and we thank you for your generosity to us, Lord, in so many ways. We thank you for calling us into your church and into your service, and we thank you for blessing our Family Giving Center here at St. Thomas and blessing the people that come to it, Lord. And we just ask that your Spirit now would guide us in the words that we speak, Lord, that it would be helpful for others to learn about our Family Giving Center, and mostly, Lord, that our words would give you glory. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. So my name is Doug McClure. I'm pastor here at St. Thomas, and gathered here with some of our volunteers that help run our Family Giving Center. And just like to go around the table and let each person introduce themselves and maybe their particular role in the Family Giving Center. So maybe Janice, you could start off.
I'm Janice Barker. I am the coordinator of the Family Giving Center, and I've been involved with starting with our food cupboard for the last 4 years.
Thank you.
My name is Linda Veal, and I am a volunteer at the Family Giving Center. I most often do the door, but I pretty much do anything that needs to be done.
I'm Leslie McClure, and my main responsibility is our pet boutique. And I'll talk a little further about that as we go along.
I'm Gary Barker. I'm one of the volunteers here. I get told what to do and I do it. I'm Janice's husband, and we've been involved with the food cupboard for all the 4 years and 2 years before that, before she came on board.
We know you learn. My name is Krista Novosad, and I run the Grub Tub program in our local elementary schools.
I'm Megan Torfey. I'm a volunteer at the Family Giving Center. I guess I was involved with cleaning out the rooms downstairs.
Well, these are just a few of the volunteers that we have, and I'm just going to ask Janice, our coordinator, to just explain a little bit about the history and the background, how all this got started.
So we've had a food cupboard here for somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 years. When Gary and I took over from the previous people, we were giving food to between 12 and 15 people, and that one bag of groceries could represent a single person or a family. And so we were meeting the needs of maybe 50 people every month, but with a limited number of bags of groceries on a very small budget, and that was supported by the church. And in time, because we promoted it and talked about it, it continued to grow. And as the number of people we serviced grew, the need grew, and the need for more space, and everything just kind of blossomed. And then we, at an advisory board retreat, and every time we have a new advisory board, we have a one-day retreat where we pray and talk about the goals and missions of the coming year. The whole need to feed the hungry became more evident, and from that has sprung what you see now. We now are dealing with somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 people every month. They can come once, so we have approximately 55 people who come on the Friday that we're open, so 2 Fridays a month. And that's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 300 different people that we help. A lot of those people that are now volunteers, the people that come during the week to help pack groceries, to stock shelves, to deal with clothes and a lot of other things are volunteers. The people that come to help with our community lunches are all volunteers. They're all volunteers of our clients that have now become volunteers. So it's really blossomed and opened up a lot of opportunities for people to get involved.
Thank you, Janice. Very good outline. I think that's one of the more heartening things has been the involvement of what we used to call our clients. The people would come and benefit from the free groceries and clothing and such. And many of them, out of gratitude, have come to us and said, how can I help? And so now they are intimately involved in lots of volunteer work. We do a free community lunch along with the food cupboards, where we provide a hot lunch, usually soups, but sometimes something a little more. We always have a couple of people make fresh bannock for our lunches. We have a lot of First Nations people visit our Family Giving Center. And the chef who cooks our lunches, our meals, was started coming here as a client, and we found out he had chef skills, and so he's been doing that. People always comment on what great food there is. Maybe just so we can hit on some other things, Leslie, could you just talk a little bit about the pet boutique?
Right, our pet room, we call it a pet boutique. Like a lot of our other rooms, we use the name boutique because it means something special, rather than just thinking of coming to a secondhand place. You feel special somehow when you go into a boutique, so we make our clients feel special when they come as well. And a lot of the people that come have pets, and I know sometimes there's a criticism that, well, if you can't feed yourself, then you shouldn't have an animal. But for these people, their pets are sometimes the only thing that shows them love and affection throughout the day. Their love's unconditional, it's not judgmental at all, so their pets are really important to them. And often they will come down to the pet boutique and get food and supplies for their pets before they even go and get their groceries, because they know that they're assured of getting their bag of groceries, but we can't keep up with the demand for the pet food. And so if it's at the end of the day, Family Giving Center, we may not have something for them. So they do line up down there, and I've got about 70 names on the list of people that come to get pet supplies. So the demand is great. And you know, we're thinking about these people in terms of their emotional and mental health as well, and we know how important their pets are. I recently read a quote that said, until you've loved an animal, part of your soul remains unawakened. It's very special to them. And so it's hard to keep up with the demand, unfortunately, because we do get some donations from the regional food distribution. We get donations from our congregation, but we don't get enough, and so it's a challenge for us to try and keep up with that demand for our clients.
That's a good point, is as we've been evolving, we find ourselves partnering with other organizations and some businesses. First and foremost, our own congregation. We have a wagon that people each Sunday come and make donations of non-perishables. And the first Sunday of every month, we have the children bring the wagon up to the front of the church at the end of the service, and we have a prayer of blessing with the children. So we're trying to teach the children about having a concern for those in need. So the congregation's been very generous in donations as well as financial. But we've established some partnerships with St. John's Ambulance, Metro Food Stores, Staples, stationery stores, and a couple of local farmers, I believe, have been supplying eggs and things like that. Also, this Regional Food Distribution Association is a big source for us of providing us with food, free food that we can hand out. So maybe someone could talk about some of those partnerships and the food drives. I'm thinking Krista has had a couple of creative food drive ideas, but Janice, you seem to have something.
I just wanted to mention that one of the things we've done with the congregation, and this was actually Megan's idea, was we came up with Adopt a Family. And people in the congregation were offered an opportunity for either $15 a month or $180 a year to pay for, provide the cost of one bag of groceries. That's what we actually purchase. We give out 2 bags of groceries, but one is the items that we get from Regional Distribution Association. So the other one is what we purchase. And so for that $180 a year, people are paying for that groceries. And we were fortunate enough to have enough people embrace that idea that I have a guaranteed $540 every month to go towards purchasing food. Another thing that we were able to get was a very generous donation from the Thunder Bay Community Foundation. They gave us a grant of $6,500 this year to go towards our Family Giving Center. And it's more than just food. It helps with the grub tubs, it helps with pet supplies, it helps with just our general needs. So we've distributed that money throughout all of the rooms that all the areas that we're involved in. And that's another important thing, is that all these things that we do, this whole space, all came about because we had an empty Sunday school. At one time, all of our rooms were filled with children on a Sunday morning, and that's not the case anymore as it is in most churches. And so Sunday school now meets in this hall, and we had 9 empty rooms. So with these empty rooms, we now have space where we give out ladies' clothes, men's clothes, children's. We have a toy room. We have 2 housewares rooms. We have our pet boutique. And we have a room that people can make their donations, so they can be sorted and gone through. And that has just enabled us to do so much more that we never could have done before had we not embraced this whole space. And with that, our need has grown. So we've had a need for more money, and that means that we have to be out there looking for ways to bring money in, to bring more food in. And one of the things that we do is partnering with St. John's Ambulance and the 3 local Metro stores. On Easter Saturday, we will have a Fill the Ambulance, Feed the Hungry food drive. In previous years, we've been in 2 Metro stores. This year we will be in 3 because St. John's now has 3 ambulances. And so they will park it outside, staff it with their volunteers, and our volunteers will be in the store handing out slips of paper with ideas of what people can purchase, the non-perishable food items. Also, Metro will make up pre-made bags that people can purchase. And all that food will go into the ambulance until the ambulances are filled. And in previous years, we really have filled them. We've just filled them to capacity where you're squeezing in the last box of food. And we've also been able to collect a large amount of money in cash donations, which all helps keep our food cupboard running. And when we don't spend money on food, we're able to spend it on other things. And I think one of the things that we'll be doing this year is, on that list of food, is adding pet food. So we'll say cat food, dog food, and that's certainly all going to help with the needs of the people that come to us.
A couple of other things that we also give out are bus tickets. People,
Yes.
they can be very expensive. People have to get to doctor's appointments and things like that, and we're able to help in that way. Also, we've had gift cards from the local grocery store, $10 gift cards, so things that we can't give out. But if there's a special need, we selectively will give little gift cards to people so that they can get the specifics that they need. We've also set up, during the free lunches, we provide some entertainment. We have a gentleman that comes with a guitar and sings and creates some atmosphere. And at one end of the table, we have a table set up for Christian literature and supplies, little crosses and ornaments of a Christian age, free Bibles and things like that. We don't push those on people, but they're there and available, and many people, will show interest and take a book or a Bible and that, and we think that's important too. I wanted to ask Krista about some of the creative food drives we've had with our congregation.
Sure. Our congregation is really tied to our Family Giving Center, and we keep them very involved as we can. So the first Sunday of every month, the kids do bring up that wagon full of food. But then we try and tie in the liturgical seasons too with our fundraising. So there's the Advent. We have 4 good Sundays of fundraising. One year we did superheroes. So we have 4 weeks, so that means 4 different items that we try and fundraise, and we get a mountain of food that sits in the front of the church, so it's a nice visual that the people can see what they're raising for our Family Giving Center food cupboard. This year for Lent, we're doing, let's get this right, the Leaning Lenten Tissue Tower. And that's a nice tower we've got growing upstairs right now. It's toilet paper, Kleenex, the things that you don't necessarily think of people needing, but they do, and it's wonderful. The congregation really gets into it, and it's a good way of tying everyone together in this wonderful project.
It is really important that we keep the congregation involved too, because a lot of the congregation are volunteers. I mean, that's where they're either clients or they're the part of the congregation. We do have one volunteer that comes from outside that just heard about us and volunteers, which is pretty exciting. But for the most part, they are our parishioners, and they love what we're doing, and so they want to be part of it. They want to be involved, and it means a lot to all of us that what we're doing is important to the entire congregation and not just a few of us. We're very passionate about it, but it's nice to see that everyone in the congregation understands that passion and supports it. And that's huge. Something else I wanted to say was what it means to people when they come here and they're greeted. Linda's good at this. She remembers everyone's name, calls them by name when they come, greets them, knows their story, and everyone gets treated like a friend. It doesn't matter if they're here for the first time or they've been coming for 2 or 3 years. Everyone gets treated the same. They're all our friends, and we're just so happy to have them here, and we tell them that. And I think that's really important. When I meet with someone new, and they come into the office and they sit down and they give me their information, I thank them for coming. I tell them how happy we are that they are here, and that they're welcome to come every month. And we don't question what their need is, we just understand it and accept it. And we want to see them. They're our friends, and we want to see them here. And I think all those things make this a special place. I think that's one of the reasons that we've been successful, is that people do feel welcomed, they feel cared about, they feel accepted, and we're very happy to have them here.
When you talk like that, Janice, it makes me think of the lady I was talking to during one of our community lunches, and one of the clients. I'd only met her a couple of times and didn't know her very well. In the midst of the conversation, she said, I had given up hope that I'd ever meet a trustworthy person or a good person again on this planet. She said, I'd totally given up hope. And that seemed a shocking statement. I said, well, you don't seem to feel that way today. What changed? And she totally blew me away. She says, I started coming here. And I just looked at her, and she says, well, when you come here, you're treated with respect. Like, you're not looked down upon. You're embraced as one of the family. She said, it's changed my life. And I guess that's just one of many stories I'm sure all of us could tell. it's the, what keeps, I think, the volunteers motivated and at this is the sense that it is making a difference. It is literally changing lives. Some have even said, "You've saved my life." You know, I was really down and out and at, you know, wit's end, and coming here has turned my life around. So I think that keeps us motivated to keep on with this.
People love to share their stories.
Yes.
You know, whether it's during the fellowship time downstairs for the lunch or when they're in the rooms, they love to share their stories. And I think that they do that because we make them feel that they're family to us. I mean, I guess for me, I hear a lot of stories about their pets because I'm in the pet room, but one fellow told me that his dog saves his life, and I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, he wakes me up every morning to take my heart medication, he watches me take it, and then the dog goes back to sleep." He says, "So my dog is really important to me, so feeding him is important." And then they put their pictures of their pets up on the bulletin board. So I mean, again, it's that feeling of a family, that we care for them. And sometimes they'll come into the room and I'll say, "What do you need today?" And they'll say, "Nothing, I just want a hug." You know, so, you know, that love is exchanged with these people.
I do have two things that I actually wanted to touch on that Janice had spoken about. One thing being that families get to come for food every 2 weeks, once a month, and we have 2 a month. We do tell them that they're welcome to come both times, that they can only have pet food and groceries once a month, but that they're welcome to come and go through the rooms, which is always exciting to them, and pick out whatever they might like or might need, and be social with us and have lunch with us. And we do have people that just come for lunch, so they did just want somewhere to be and someone to be with, and they do just come for lunch and fellowship, and they enjoy just being here. And the other thing, and Janice talked about the cost of $15 for the adoptive family for a food bag. People tend to think $15, that's not much for a month, but you really have to know what she goes through to get that $15 in that bag, because we get a lot of stuff in a bag. Janice has gone around and she does not pay a lot for what she gets. She's actually advocated for cheaper prices and more discounts from all local stores, and taken in grocery bills and said, "Look, I've spent this here, what are you going to do for me?" And she gets things in bulk for really good prices. So $15 that you might run out and spend is not what you're going to get in that bag. It's going to cost you a lot more if you just had to go to the grocery store and pick up what we were giving you. So she really does advocate for everybody and make sure that she's getting the best deals possible. So
That's true, I am a cheap shopper.
sale rep.
I watch the flyers, I pay attention, I buy a lot of something when it's on sale, and I'm very careful. I know what I'm prepared to pay for something, I will not go over it. And I have made some really good deals with particularly our local No Frills, and the fellow there is amazing. He discounts everything I purchase. Gives me cost on everything, which is really, really nice. It makes a big difference on the grocery bill at the end, and they're very kind there, they're very helpful, and so I tend to do a lot of my shopping there now. But it is about getting the best. It's giving the most for the least, and that's really important to me, is that we really take care of people. So the No Frills store is very supportive, giving me cost on pretty much everything that I buy. And they're very kind, they're very generous there, very helpful, and it makes me want to shop there, so I am doing a lot of my shopping. Another thing that, besides the 2 bags of groceries that we give out, we try to give out something fresh each time. So if I'm not getting produce or fruit from RFDA, I will purchase, in the past month I've been purchasing carrots and onions to go with the potatoes that we get donated, so that people are getting something fresh. It's a lot nicer than getting just canned foods. And RFDA does support us with a lot of frozen things, so we are able to often to be giving out some kind of meat. Even if it's wieners, it's still something, and people are very grateful for that. The different seasons will bring on different foods too, so as we get into spring and summer, then RFDA will have different foods. We'll have more apples and oranges and those kind of things that they purchase when they're a good price, and then in turn we get that. So that's always very nice. And one of the things that we were able to do with our grant money was to purchase a new freezer, and that's enabled us to take more food from RFDA. So as long as we have somewhere to store the frozen products, then we can get more. And when their clients can take it, when the food cupboards can take more from RFDA, then RFDA can take more. And so the turnover is faster and we get more product and everybody's happy. It's nice when we've got lots of variety of things to give out to people and they're getting a more well-rounded diet.
There's a couple of other initiatives that came out of the Family Giving Center and our passion to help those in need. Krista's kind of headed up one creative project. There's actually two I'd like you to speak about. One, your grub tubs, but also maybe the staples and the school supply.
Come and get your grub tub for you.
Sure.
Should we show?
Yeah. Grub tubs. That was a concept that stemmed from my oldest child starting junior kindergarten, and I was introduced to this whole new world of making lunches and snacks. And one day it happened, he forgot to pack his lunch, and in a mad dash, he got it together. There it is right there. And I got him out the door with food, but that really bothered me, this idea that my son could go hungry at school. So you pick the most unhealthy.
Oh, sorry.
But it hit me all of a sudden what to do. Okay, let's provide a source of food in the schools that the children, if they've forgotten or let's be realistic, don't have any food for lunch, they can go to this source and get it. Now, a lot of schools do have programs in place for breakfast and lunch, but the grub tubs complement this because it's non-perishable, peanut-free snack foods. So it'll last for quite a long time, and the teachers hand out this food at their own discretion, again, to the students who don't have or have forgotten their snack foods. And we have a grub tub in 7 schools in Thunder Bay right now. And the whole premise of this is that this never runs dry. So I refill it whenever it's needed, and there is always something in the schools that the kids can go and get something to eat. That's sort of where the idea came from my son, and this fear of him not being fed at school. But the real motivation, I think, behind the idea was the fact that we have a great group of people here, and what we've done at our advisory board retreats is opened ourselves up to the concept of discerning what God wants for us and as a church where we need to go, and just letting the Holy Spirit guide our thoughts and give us ideas, and then having Doug say, run with it. Just take your idea and see how far you can go. And like, who would have thought that a grub tub program, you know, it's such an easy, obvious solution to a problem, but it's never been done before. Well, why not? It's like you just needed the Holy Spirit to give you the idea. You needed a church that was open to a mission idea in itself, and let it go. And I really like the idea that it's there, and trust that God is using it to feed kids that need to learn. And there's a whole concept that we have absolutely no idea what kids are being affected, because confidentiality within the schools must be maintained. but there's this idea that there are kids being helped and God is working in their lives, and who knows how far that's going to reach. But we're in a small part helping with that, so that's really cool.
Can you say some of the financial support you've got for your Grub Tub program from the community? There's been some different groups that have
Certainly. St. Thomas was the first one to support this idea and took it on financially. Once we realized the need is great, yes, it's working, the fundraising started because this is a program that does cost money. So letters went out into the community. Grocery stores have been very helpful. But we've also received funding from Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs. The Connaught Lodge has given us money, and individual people have stepped up and provided funds as well. So the community response has been fabulous, and yeah.
How about the school supply drive? You want to describe that?
One of the other drives that we like to do is in September, end of August, we do a hot dog barbecue food drive in front of Staples, and again that's in partnership with St. John's Ambulance showed up to give us some volunteer help, and all of the you're gonna help me out here,
Well, the
Barbecue.
Staples stationery store, they allow us to set up right in front of their main store here on the busiest day of their year. And they supply us with a barbecue and all the food. And we just supply volunteers along with St. John's Ambulance. And they bring their ambulance, so it's quite visible. We cook up hamburgers, hot dogs and such and sell them. And then the proceeds that we raise, Staples lets us come in and purchase at a good deal school supplies. And then Krista and others have gone out and bought backpacks. And we fill the backpacks.
that's right.
And then we have a relationship with the schools, and they identify the families and children most in need. And we give pack sacks full of free school supplies at the beginning of the school year to the children.
St. Thomas's vision statement is continuing the work of Jesus by helping those in need, and so our role is just to be open to what does that look like, and so that's a lot of these different ideas come out of that vision statement.
I was thinking too about our volunteers and the diversity of volunteers. I don't know if we mentioned some of our seniors in the church, those in their 80s plus, or I mean plus, some are in their 90s, who have been stalwarts at St. Thomas for decades and decades and been very active and supportive, but in recent years maybe got to a point where they felt they'd done their bit and were not quite as active or involved, and hoping and happy to see the younger generation be active. But some of them have re-engaged. They're been so caught up and inspired by what's going on with the Family Giving Center. I know Janice's parents, well into their 80s, are here each time serving, and your mom has kind of changed her life, hasn't it?
It has. It's been life-changing for her. She looks after one of the housewares rooms, and she will tell anyone that it's been life-changing. She's been active in the church her whole adult life, but this is something completely different. And the people that she meets and has an opportunity to talk with, their stories are so wonderful, and they're so grateful. And it is very rewarding to help someone who's grateful. And so that's what she sees so much of, is how grateful people are just to receive 2 hand towels. You know, if you don't have them, you're pretty pleased to get them, and so that makes it very rewarding. My dad comes on food covered days, and the food that we get from RFDA comes in boxes that need to be returned to them. And so he returns those boxes. it seems like a little job, but it needs a truck because there's a lot of them, and it needs someone to do it. So that's the job he does. Someone loads them up with all the boxes and he drives them back to RFDA. It's a really important job, and we need someone doing it. We have another couple who will help out when he's not available, and he does the same thing, and she works in the other housewares room, and these people are all well into their 80s. We have a lady who helps hand out food that's past that. And she's here on those Fridays, handing out groceries. We have people who, and bake. We have people who bake for the lunch, who provide cookies and cakes. One person who every Food Cupboard Friday makes a cake to serve with coffee and with the lunch. And those things are all really important. They just show how much the parishioners care, and it says a lot to the clients coming to have lunch, that we really want them to have a nice meal, and so we're providing everything we can.
I think another, one of the senior volunteers, Bill, actually,
Oh,
some of them, when they get their groceries and other things, clothing and that, it's a lot to carry. Some of them are elderly or women, and so Bill, he's a retired fellow, he'll drive them home. And he's ever so gracious with them, and they really like Bill, and he helps them load his car, and he'll drive them home, and then he gets right back here for the next person that he needs to take. So he's running a little shuttle service, but then again, there's someone that we hadn't seen very active for many years, and now him and his wife comes and helps as well. But it's all generations, because our Sunday school has gotten involved. And when there's a PD day, or whatever they call them, the children have a day off from school. The last time the Sunday school came, the children came and helped, worked right alongside, handing out the groceries and that. And so learning about helping those in need and thinking of others, being a helping hand. That was actually part of the Sunday school teaching program too, helping hands, and that kind of fit in with that theme. So about a month or so ago, we had a visit from Ontario Regional Grand Chief Stan Beardy, who wanted to come and he asked me if he could come specifically to thank our volunteers, which he did while he was here with us. And one reason he gave to thank the volunteers was that he said that statistically 65% of people who access food banks are First Nations people. And he recognized that a lot of our clients are First Nations, and so he was just thanking on behalf of his people the work that's being done here. And I think that was an encouragement to our volunteers and that. So we do have a diversity of people coming, all age groups and that, and young families with children who have extra special needs. So I don't know.
So
Megan, we were going to ask you to, we'll talk about our Respect campaign.
I think that we need to explain why we called it the Family Giving. I think we need to explain why we called it the Family Giving Center.
Oh, yes.
We wanted people to feel part of our parish family, and that name came about by one of our retreats, I believe. And we wanted people to feel like they were part of the St. Thomas Parish family. Because the City of Thunder Bay has a Respect campaign, and there are many different types of people that come to our Family Giving Center, we wanted to have a baseline. A lot of them aren't church people, so we wanted to have a baseline. So we piggybacked on the Respect campaign that the City of Thunder Bay had. And there are posters around the Giving Center so that everybody is on the same page as to how to treat one another. Because, again, a lot of the people that come here aren't church people. So we wanted to have a baseline for everybody to treat one another with respect, honor people, and everybody has a voice and needs to be heard. But we need to be respectful of that voice, including us, including the people that work here.
And I give every new client that comes, when I interview with them, I do give them a copy of that and ask them to read it. I quickly go over it, but I do ask them to read it. And I give them a copy to take away, along with a copy of our dates and how to call in, important things. But they're both very important things that they understand, that respect is something that we take seriously.
And as we were talking here, a gentleman came to the door asking for some food because he thought it was food cover day. So I got his information and about what he needed and gave him a little mini bag so that he'd have something to last him while he waited till next week. And I invited him to the lunch that we have, and he said he's going to bring his family as well. So there's always a need out there.
And this does happen. We probably give out 3 or 4 bags throughout the week, bags of groceries, to people that come. They either have a wrong day, they didn't know when, they've forgotten, or they just suddenly have a need. And we really don't care what their reason is. We'll give them some food. We try to never send anyone away empty-handed. And so we keep bags of groceries ready to be given out, and we're always happy to do that. Though we do tell them when the correct days are and really encourage them to come on those days. And we often will get people who come by looking for a bus ticket too. That can be a need, that they find themselves on the wrong end of town or in need of a ride to their doctor's appointment or whatever it is. And so that is one of the reasons that we keep bus tickets.
I think something too that we maybe didn't foresee happening is our original intent was to help meet the physical needs, food, clothing, and hot meal and so forth. But increasingly, as we get to know the people and they become regular, they're coming to some of us with their personal needs. They're looking for a bit of counsel, encouragement, the hugs, prayer. Some will come specifically to me as pastor and ask for prayer. And I know Janice, often when she does an initial interview with them, they'll open up with some personal issues that are going on in their life and they need someone to talk to, and she's a great listener. And that, so we recognize that, you know, it goes well beyond physical, material needs that they have. They have the emotional, spiritual needs and so forth. And we're trying to be open to all of those and help in whatever way we can. Another little outreach from the Family Giving Center, I think we could say it is we've gone, there's a local city-run apartment complex or building for affordable housing. And we've gone there with our Sunday school, our choir, and other people in the congregation that have talent, singing and otherwise, and put on a little afternoon concert, and sometimes we've provided a lunch or at least snacks and so forth, so that, you know, getting out of our own building into the community where they live, and they've been very grateful for that as well. It's something that is always uplifting. It's usually a fun program, and of course they love the children and that. And we've done that about 3 times a year, I think. We've been trying to do that. And many of those people in that building are the ones also that come to our Family Giving Center.
If I may, there's just there's a lot of ideas that you've heard sort of flying around the table, and all these things that we're doing, and our volunteers even take on their own initiatives. And but the really important thing I think you have to realize is it started small, and we were very careful not to overextend ourselves as a group. So we took one idea, and when we were comfortable, it was running well, we said, okay, we see more need around it, what can we do to help address that? And then we branch out a little bit more. And when we got comfortable with that, again and again and again, and the more people you have that join and volunteer, the more ideas you get, and you can accomplish more. I know Janice was saying in the back of her head there has been that idea where I want to provide a hot lunch for people when they come to get food. And how many years before we were able to accomplish that? So it's important that we have all these great ideas and all these things we want to do, but that we also take our time to accomplish it, and that it doesn't become overwhelming and then, collapse in on itself. But
I think it's a really important thing, Krista, and I think all of us are pretty good at saying, I'm not taking on any more, or I'm only doing this much, because we don't want to overextend ourselves. Nobody wants to burn out. We all enjoy what we're doing, and we want to be able to continue doing it. And so the more people we get involved, the more people we have to take on little jobs. Something we didn't mention was that Megan and her husband Tony have been going to RFDA to pick up the groceries. That's a huge job. It requires a truck, or when Gary and I do it, it's a van, but it requires a lot of space. It's very heavy work. This building is made up of a lot of stairs, and so it's a chore to get the groceries in. So having volunteers that do that lightens the load. I have lots of ideas for more volunteers. I always have ideas, but we work on things slowly. We don't jump in with 2 feet, we step in with one and make sure we can actually accomplish something before we move on. And I think that is really important.
Did you talk about the strategic plan?
I was just going to say, I think what also has really helped us when we initially, at our retreat, felt we discerned this vision that God was giving us to move in this direction and to stay focused on it, that something that's been a real help to keep us focused and accountable with all these different ideas is we developed what we call a strategic plan, which we review at each of our monthly advisory board meetings, and now we have a Family Giving Center team or committee. So this document, we get the ideas down, and then we prioritize, and when we're going to aim to do it, who's going to do it, and so forth and so on. And then every month we review it, hold ourselves, we said we were going to, where are we with that? Or we shift the priorities because different factors have come in play. And I think having the focus was important. There's so many good ideas that a parish can get involved with. We felt this was the one idea God was calling us to do. And by staying focused, I think a lot has happened. A lot of new life has come into the church. It's connected us more with the community around. But we recognize there's other good things, but that's not what God's called us to at this time. And maybe other churches are doing those good things. So I think it's not to try to be all things to all people, and get so watered down that you're not doing anything very well. The focus has been very important.
I think actually we've done a good job giving ourselves permission to let things go. If on our strategic plan, if there were ideas that sounded great and still do, but we just can't do it because of volunteers or whatever reason, we give ourselves permission to let that go, and maybe we'll revisit it again, or maybe we won't, but that's really important too, I think. When we first started with that advisory board retreat, feeding the hungry was one of our top priorities, and a lot of this stemmed from that. And we had a separate group that was the Feed the Hungry group, and we met and we came up with a bunch of ideas, and we did them, and that was great. This is 3 years later, and the Feed the Hungry group no longer exists. It kind of outlived itself, and we let that go. And what's taken its place is the Family Giving Center. And everything that sort of falls under that umbrella. And it's so much bigger than this idea of just feed the hungry. But that's where we started. And like I said, giving ourselves permission to just let that go and let God take us where He wants us to go, not where we want to go, has been a bit of a hard lesson, but we've done it, and I hope we keep doing it.